Hello everyone, I am Assistant Professor Tejashree Sonawane from Sarhad College of Arts, Commerce and Science. Today we will discuss the species and speciation. Species is a group of interbreeding population that can exchange their genes, and speciation is the formation of one or more new species from an existing species. In speciation, there is no gene flow. Speciation is a how new kind of a plant or animal species is created. Speciation occurs when a group within the species separate from other members of its species and develop its own unique characteristics. The demand of a different environment or the characteristics of the member of the new group will differentiate the new species from their ancestor. Speciation is the type of a divergent evolution. Here in this picture we can see the original population which are separated due to habitat isolation and leads to the speciation, that is formation of a new species. Example of a speciation is the Galapagos finch. Different species of the bird live on a different island. The finches are isolated from one another by the ocean. Over the million of years, each species of the finch developed the unique beak that is especially adapted to the kind of the food it eats. Some finches have the large blunt beak that can crack the hard shell of the nuts and seeds, and other finches have the long and thin beaks. Still other finches have the medium sized beak that can catch and grasp the insect. Because they are isolated, the birds don't breed with one another and have therefore developed the unique species with the unique characteristic. This is called allopatric speciation. There are some factors influencing the speciation: mutation, recombination, natural selection, genetic drift, polyploidy, and isolation. Reproductive isolation is the mechanism that prevents the gene exchange. There are two types of a isolating mechanism: pre-zygotic isolating mechanism and post-zygotic isolating mechanism. In pre-zygotic isolating mechanism, isolation prevents the zygote formation, and post-zygotic isolating mechanism, zygote fails to develop normally. In pre-zygotic isolating mechanism, there are four types: ecological isolation, that is species occupy the different habitat; temporal isolation, species breed at a different time; behavior isolation, species engage in a distance countership and different rituals; and in mechanical isolation, inability of a sperm to bind with the egg as the female reproductive organ is not suitable for it. In post-zygotic isolation, there are two types, that is hybrid inviability. Zygote proceed by offspring will not survive, and hybrid sterility is a hybrid is healthy but sterile. There are four types of a speciation: allopatric speciation, peripatric speciation, parapatric speciation, and sympatric speciation. In allopatric speciation, allo means other and patric means native land. In this type of species formation, part of a population becomes geographically isolated from the main population, and the population become entirely separated and finally constitute a new species. Thus, the geographical isolation brings about the allopatric speciation. An important example of this type of speciation is the formation of a Darwin finches that form separate species in the Galapagos Islands. Geographical barrier like river, mountain, canyon separate the member of a population. In allopatric speciation, original population is there and original population is separated due to geographical barrier. And these geographical barriers lead to the reproductive isolation and speciation can occur, that is formation of a new species. In peripatric speciation, when the small group of an individual break off from the larger group and form the new species, This is called peripatric speciation. Isolation of a population at the periphery, which can involve almost geographical isolation. As in allopatric speciation, physical barrier make it impossible for the members of the groups to interbreed with one another. The main difference between allopatric speciation and parapatric speciation is that in parapatric speciation, one group is much smaller than the other. The unique characteristics of the smaller group are passed on to the future generation of the group, making those traits more common among the group. Here, original population is there, and this original population small group are isolated and speciation can occur. Genetic drift play an important role in this type of speciation. This kind of a speciation show the migration of the small individual of a population to isolated niche. So it also an example of a founder effect and show the small founding population. Parapatric speciation, this mode of a species formation occur when the population belonging to the same species inhabit the adjacent areas, and this adjacent area may experience the changes in the climate or geographic condition, resulting in a varying selection pressure in the two regions. As a result, one or both population may diverge from one another. Moreover, members of a population prefer to mate with the member of their respective region, even though mating with those in the adjacent region is possible. As a result, divergence takes place to the extent of the reproductive isolation. Parapatric speciation, para means beside. Parapatric speciation often happens when a part of an environment has been polluted. It separates the adjacent population. Parapatric speciation takes place when the population of the species enter the new niche or habitat. It occurs only at the edge of the parent species range. Although there is no physical barrier between these populations, yet the occupancy of a new niche results as a barrier to the gene flow between the population of a new niche. Two species are produced due to reproductive isolation from the single one. In parapatric speciation, species is spread out over the large geographic area. In parapatric speciation, the two diverging species still have the geographic contact for the initial time. Such a type of speciation is found in a flightless grasshoppers, snails, and annual plants. Parapatric speciation, there is a one example of a buffalo grouse developed tolerance to heavy metals and become diverged from the adjacent population. The group of these plants grew near the mines and mining activity lead to the contamination of the soil with the heavy metals like the zinc and lead. This contamination occurred in the soil present within the specific distance from the mine. The plant present within this distance developed a tolerance to these such heavy metals, whereas the neighboring plant that were not subjected to such a selection pressure remained intolerant. These two populations were continuous and the gene flow was possible amongst them. However, in due course of a time, the population evolved a different flowering time, thus the limiting the gene flow and proceeding to speciation. Here in this picture we can see the original population diverge across the cline and speciation can occur. In sympatric speciation, sym means together and patric means native land. In this type of a species formation, the small segment of a original population become isolated reproductively. Sympatric speciation is the formation of the species within the single population without the geographic isolation, and new population live within the range of their ancestor. Here in this picture we can see the original population isolation within the population and speciation can occur. You might be wondering how one species became two separate species even though They still live in the same area. This can happen in a variety of ways due to mutation, change in allele frequency, behavior change, reproductive isolation, preference change, and seasonal reproduction. Consider the group of flies that are all the same species. There are two sources of a food for them to choose from, red apple and green apple. First, all the flies feed on the red apple, but some of the flies begin to prefer the green apple. New population of flies will have the genetic variation in its gene pool as they continue to mate with the other member of a new group. This variation will become the more prevalent in the population over the long enough period of a time. An entirely new species might develop. In Sympatric Speciation, no interbreeding but living in the same area. This is a hypothetical example. There are two examples in Sympatric Speciation, polyploidy in plant and sexual selection in animal. Here in this picture we can clearly see the all four types of a speciation: allopatric speciation, peripatric speciation, parapatric speciation and sympatric speciation. In allopatric speciation, barrier formation, that is geographic barrier, and isolation can take place and speciation can occur. In peripatric speciation, small group of individual are separated from the original population and speciation can occur. And parapatric speciation, new habitat entered in a adjacent habitat and speciation can occur. And in sympatric speciation, genetic change within the population and speciation can occur. So here we complete the species and speciation. Thank you.